Hello. So, I want to talk about a really interesting build that I've played and had a lot of fun with that is a very unique multi-class. It deals with a class that's difficult to multi-class. It's a Gish style full spell casting melee build that brings versatility but viable damage and is really a unique build that I've never seen really talked about on the internet, at least not in this approach. And it's one that I've, again, had a lot of fun with, and I'm really interested to see if anybody has a way to really make this better than I'm able to do it, but it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is, like, let's just get into this, right? So the idea is, again, melee, full spell casting, and good damage, but also a good spellcasting list that allows for versatility, so on and so forth. The big drawback to this build is it takes a lot of setup. So keep that in mind. You're not always going to be able to set things up in the way that this build needs, but even if you can't, you have a lot of fallback options because it's a good build, so whatever. Let's talk about it. Level 1. Actually, quick disclaimer here. I am going to ramble. This is not going to be a coherent video. It's going to be all over the place. I'm going to get the whole thing fucked up, but nobody cares, alright? Point is, I'm going to do my best to streamline this and communicate it in a way that's effective, and you can sort of figure out what's going on. Play this build, tweak the build, make it better, do all the fun stuff, and yada yada. Here we go. Let's get into it. Level 1. For race, we're going Turtle. And that's going to give us a few things. Nothing really great. But the good thing that we're going for here is natural armor. That's going to give you an AC of 17, and that's going to be necessary because, spoiler alert, we're going Druid. And Druid prevents you from wearing any armor. So this is a necessity. So that we can have 17 AC, we can be okay in combat. It allows you to use shields too, but again, we're Druid, so we can't, or whatever. I don't really know what the rule is. There's a lot of debate about whether you can or can't. I don't give a f. All I know is that we're going to go Turtle, and we're going to have natural armor, so we don't got to debate it with anybody at the table. In addition to that, we get a few other things that we don't care about. So we're going to go straight into our class of Druid. Being Druid is going to give us, spells, the Druid stuff, the wild shaping, all the, you know what Druid is, right? You take Moon Druid, you do a bunch of damage, you wild shape into a bear at an early level, and then you, you cheese the game, and, no one has fun, and it's unoriginal. But the way we're going to do it is we're going to get the intelligence and wisdom saving throws. We're going to get all the proficiencies. We're going to take insight and perception and yada yada yada. We're also, for equipment, we're going to take 2 clubs. Okay? You need those. Now, when we're picking spells, what you really need to be aware of is picking the right ones. And at level 1, the only one you really need to worry about here is Shillagleh. Shillagleh is going to turn your club into a 1d8 weapon. Now, it takes an action to cast, but there's no concentration. Or no, it takes a bonus action to cast. But also there's no concentration, and it lets you use your wisdom mod for the spell attack thing or whatever. Right? Doesn't it? I'm looking. You can use your spell casting ability. Oh, so we could do this with a lot of different builds, whatever. I'll figure that out later. But point is here, we can use wisdom. And I should have talked about stats. Bump your wisdom to 17. Then put some in con. You could probably go 16 con. Or 15 or whatever. Yeah, 17, 16, and 12 to 14 dex and dump the rest. I kind of forget how point buy works. Maybe I'll put a picture here, but I don't know. That's besides the point. Okay, we figured out the stats. We figured out that you need Shillagleh. That was level 1. You only get 2 cantrips anyway, so do whatever you want. Level 2, you get your Druid Circle. And for Druid Circle, we're not going Moon Druid. We're not going any of that other boring shit. We're going Spore Druid. And Spore Druid is cool, okay? You get 2 good things at level 1. 1, you get your Halo of Spores, and 2, you get your Symbiotic Entity. The Halo of Spores is going to allow you to use your reaction to deal 1d4 necrotic damage on a con save to anybody that moves into or starts within 10 feet of you, basically. And 1d4 is no damage, but it is something. And it's something to do with your reaction. And it's something to sort of stack, and you'll see how it grows later. It does scale with level, but not in a way that's effective. I mean, it goes from 1d4 to 1d6. But your Symbiotic Entity helps that out a little bit. First of all, it gives you 4 temp HP. But, okay, to activate the Symbiotic Entity, you have to use your action. Whereas Halo of Spores is just automatic. It's these little spores that are around you. And let me just say, to pull back from this build is going to have a lot of thematic pulp, okay? We're a turtle. We have a bunch of spores floating around us, and later we're going to add into that theme. So really roll the dice in terms of, or roll the ball, or roll the dice, because we're talking about D&D, you know what I'm saying? So figure out how to really build this as a really thematic character. There's a lot of RP, cake here to deal with. And this can go in a lot of really fun and interesting ways. Diving back into the text, though. So Halo of Spores doesn't require an action. They're just there, these spores. Symbiotic Entity does require an action for you to turn it on, essentially. But when you do, whenever you deal damage, you get these 2 effects that happen no matter what. You deal extra damage, so you add an extra damage dice to your Halo of Spores, so that 1d4 is really a 2d4. And your melee attacks do an extra 1d6. So at level 2, let's say, you have your Shillagleh club. You hit them with it. It's 1d8 plus wisdom, plus 1d6 necrotic, if your symbiotic thing is on. Pretty good. And if they had to walk into your space to deal with you, and you had everything on to begin with, they already took a 2d4. So at 2nd level, this is a really potent strategy, just to start off with. I understand that this is resource-based. It's based on your wild shapes in terms of the Symbiotic Entity anyway. So there is that factor. But this is, it's viable stuff, early level. We're level 2, whatever. We also get Chill Touch from our class. So have fun with that. The only downside to this is that it's a factor of your temporary hit points. So the Symbiotic Entity thing will go away when you lose your temporary HP. That's a big negative. I should probably come up with ways so that doesn't happen to you. Probably finding a way for us to take the shield spell, or finding us a way to... What else could we do? Add temp HP on temp HP? No, it doesn't stack. I don't know how you could figure that out, but I'm sure you can. Next, we're moving out of Druid and into Ranger. At 2nd level, we get a fighting style, which is important, actually. That fighting style that we're taking, 2-weapon fighting. Now you can use that extra club. Remember, your club is a light weapon, and we have Shillagleh. So, according to rules, you can Shillagleh both of those clubs, and they're light, which means you can utilize them in 2-weapon fighting. And now we have the 2-weapon fighting style, so you can add your ability modifier to the 2nd attack, right? And based on our Druid thing, when you deal damage, or when your melee weapon deals an attack, you're getting a 1d6, right? Well, your weapon attacks are now happening twice a turn, and really they could have happened that way at 2nd level. It just wouldn't have been great. You're using oh wait, no, it would have been fine. You just wouldn't have had your wisdom modifier. Now you do. You have light clubs that are 1d8 damage. You can't do that with any other weapon in the game, essentially, because you would need the feat, the dual wielding feat, to dual wield with non-light weapons. In this case, we can have light Shillaglehs, right? Pretty cool. I'm pretty sure you can. This is allowed, right? I mean, I'm not breaking any rules here. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's allowed. So we're gonna do it, and it works well. The only problem is there's a big tempt to just go 5 levels of Ranger so you can get your extra attack. And in my opinion, based on the numbers, in terms of spell casting versus extra attack, it's not going to be worth it. At least, that's how I feel. I'm going to pretend like I've crunched the numbers and the numbers are supporting my theory. But that's besides the point. Don't do it. We're only going to 3rd level, and at 3rd level, we're taking our subclass. For subclass, we're going to add to the thematic element that I referenced earlier, and we're going to go Swarm Keeper Ranger. Alright? Swarm Keeper is a great subclass, and it's one that I don't see, ever. But there's really a lot going on here. So you get all these swarms. So right now we have the spores, and now we got the swarms. So come up with a good theme, because you can do a lot of cool shit. But the swarm is going to give you a few things. First of all, on each of your turns, you can use this swarm to assist you in one of the following ways after you hit a creature with an attack, and it has to be immediate. So this is how this is going to work. The attacks take so the attacks target takes 1d6 damage from the swarm. That's one option. The attack's target must succeed on a strength saving throw against your spell DC or be moved up to 15 feet horizontally, or you can move yourself horizontally 5 feet. Now, remember the old Druid thing? You have your Halo of Spores, which says when a creature you can see moves into a space within 10 feet of you or starts their turn there, you can use your reaction to do 1d4 damage, which will be 2d4 if your entity is up. Right? So if you can hit them with an attack, and now you can move them with your swarm at 5th level overall, we're saying now. You're attacking 1d8 plus wisdom. You're getting an extra 1d6 from your entity, and you can either add 1d6 or try to move them and add 2d4. Okay? I think maybe I added too much because for entity, do you have to choose that it's one or the other? No, I don't think you do actually. Only for the ranger thing. Only for Swarm Keeper, yeah. So this is fantastic. Okay? This is a really cool thing that we have going on here. We're stacking up damage, we're synergizing, and we're doing it in a way that's effective. And think about what's going on. We're a Turtle, we have 17 AC, we're a Druid who doesn't wild shape, because we're using our wild shapes for this symbiotic entity. And in doing so, we're building this class that no one's playing. We're holding 2 clubs, they're both Shillagleh. And by the way, in order to make that work, you have to be walking around all the time, constantly Shillaglehing your thing. So just talk to your DM before and be like, look, listen, man, I want to use Shillagleh. I don't want my first round of combat to be me just constantly spawning Shillagleh in my hands. I want to actually play the game. So can we just say that I do that as long as I have weapons, and then when combat happens, they're Shillagleh? He'll probably be like, yeah, or she will probably be like, yeah, it's fine. But if it's not, then you kind of got to burn your first turn. The other problem is you're probably burning your first turn anyway just to turn on your symbiotic thing, because it requires an action. So keep that in mind. Pick spells that will facilitate other options, and you'll be able to pick those spells. Because now in terms of our spell progression at level 5, we are 2 Ranger, 3 Druid. That gives us 3 second level spell slots. I don't know exactly how many spells that is, but it's an amount, and pick the right ones. I haven't told you to really pick any except Shillagleh. But speaking of spells you could pick, I'll tell you right now, for 6th level, we're going back into Druid. That takes us to Druid level 3, which gives us 2nd level spells, and we're taking Spike Growth. This is really where the build comes completely together. Spike Growth is an action cast, concentration, 20-foot point radius, becomes difficult terrain, and the creature, whenever it moves into or within the space, it takes 2d4 damage for every 5 feet it travels. See what's going on here? We're moving into combat, we're spike growthing, we're attacking with our weapon, we're adding extra damage from symbiotic entity, we're adding our wisdom modifier from Shillagleh. It's a 1d8 from Shillagleh anyway. Then we're using our Ranger Swarmer ability to move them through the spike growth, forcing them to take, 2 to 64 damage from the spike growth. And in addition to that, they're going to take damage from the halo of spores, right? And that's going to be another 2d4 damage. So we're talking about potentially 8d4 damage. And then we're going to use our bonus action to hit them again, right? This is pretty legit. And that second hit is 1d8 plus wisdom plus 1d6. So, think about that. Oh, and I'm sorry. By the way, the necrotic damage from Halo of Spores has increased to 1d6 because we're level 6 now. So it's going to be a 2d6 as long as your symbiotic entity is up. And that's pretty good because when we turn it on, we're getting those temporary hit points also, which is equivalent to our Druid level, which is now 3 times 4, which is 12 extra hit points. So we're in combat, we have 17 AC, we have temporary hit points, we're doing good damage, we have battlefield control via spike growth, we are attacking with 2 clubs like a fucking maniac, and we're a goddamn turtle. I mean, this build is ripe with just flavor. I'm gonna also say to take a spell at 2nd level. We're also okay. So right now we're level 6. We took spike growth. I think you can take a second level spell. Am I right in that? Because you can switch spells out. I don't know if I'm right, but let's just pretend you can. If you can't at 6th level, then take it at 7th. Take Wither and Bloom. Wither and Bloom is a spell that you never see, but in this, and partly because it's new, right? But on this build, it's really going to be a good spell. It allows you to cast what makes it good here is that it's not concentration. We're spending our concentration on spike growth. And so we need to be able to keep that up and still be able to cast spells if we want. And this is a good spell. It does 2d6 damage to each creature in an area. It's a 10-foot radius area. And half as much as on a successful save. Non-magical vegetation withers. That does not include your spike growth because that is magical vegetation. And in addition, one creature of your choice in that area can spend any unspent hit dice to regain hit points equal to your roll plus spellcasting mod. Which we have a good spellcasting mod, kinda. Not really, comparatively, but it's fine. It's 3. Point is, you get health back while you're doing damage. While we've been in combat, while we have temporary HP, while we're dragging people through a goddamn spike growth, while we have 17 AC as a druid turtle that doesn't wild shape. And now we've cast Wither and Bloom with our action on a random turn, and we're damaging the enemy still, while at the same time healing ourselves. Or an ally. So, pretty good. Now, let's actually talk about 7th level, just for a second, because there's an important thing to mention that I've purposefully been skirting over. At 7th level, we're going Druid, so now we're 4 Druid, and by the way, you're going to go the rest Druid. The reason for this being spells, and also you get a cool feature where you can animate dead with your spore druid. You can raise a creature that you've killed and put it to 1 hit point. Normally this isn't great because you're never killing anything is this build with this stuff, but now you will be, so whatever. It's a cool feature. I think it's worth and also be druid, and you know what I'm saying? We also need the levels in druid to keep up the entity stuff. We also need the spells. You get pretty decent spells. The druid spell list isn't the best, but it's not bad, and you are cool, and so on and so forth. So, At 7th level, you get your ASI. You need Warcaster. I've been skirting over the fact that we're holding 2 goddamn clubs and we're casting spells, probably. The only spell we've been casting really is Spike Growth, and maybe there's a world where we figure out a way to do this with it in each hand, with a club in each hand. Like, maybe, I don't know, something, another thing, and we're cheating or something. I don't know. You can do it if you just put one away, right? But, or can it be a spellcasting focus? I don't know what the hell a druid's spellcasting focus is. If I'm scrolling through, now is not the time to do this. It doesn't matter. Whatever, maybe a club is a spellcasting focus. I don't know. Besides the point, take Warcaster, because Warcaster is going to let you now cast while holding both of those clubs and not worrying about anything. In addition to that, you're going to be able to keep your Spike Growth up longer because you're going to get concentration spell proficiency. And that's really going to allow you to, again, keep that Spike Growth up. Attack enemies, move them around the growth, attack them again with your bonus action. The only drawback here is that you're having to do a lot of setup. You're having to use a potentially action bonus action to light up your Shillagles. Hopefully that's happening before combat has started, so let's assume that it has. Then you have to use your action to turn on your Spore Druid symbiotic entity. Then you have to use an action to set up a Spike Growth. And now you can finally play the game and start attacking things. But with that said, there are still options for you to, for example, start by just attacking. If you're within range on that first turn, don't use an action to turn on entity. Don't use an action to Spike Growth. Just go in and attack. You also have other spells that you can choose from and make viable. This is just your bread and butter strategy, and it works, and it should be utilized when you're in those bigger fights. You can also use Spike Growth in a lot of ways that are like really effective for control. So maybe Spike Growth is your first turn action. Also, you're getting a couple of spells from your Ranger subclass. You're getting, I think, Mamma Mia, Fairy Fire, Web. Oh, we're never gonna get Web, actually. You just get Fairy Fire and Mage Hand. Both are good. From your Druid thing, you get Blindness, Deafness is good. The other ones are fine. But, you know. Yeah. That's the build, basically. Just take the rest in Druid, be a Druid who doesn't wild shape, spends all the wild shapes on entities. And that's the other thing, again. If you're in the situation where you can't do the setup, you can always wild shape into a creature you can always do Druid shit. That's always available to you. But this is good damage, good control, badass, unique. Everyone in the party will be like, what the fuck? I've never seen that. 2 clubs and a turtle being, you know what I'm saying? It'll be cool. What else? Is that it? Am I forgetting anything? Yeah, 2-weapon fighting. Who knew? Take a club. Take another club. Shillagleh them. Hit them with one. Bonus action the other. Right? No one looks at the club and says, hey, that's a light weapon. But it sure is. And, put it to good use. So that's it. Enjoy. Do it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Something like that. Good luck.